So it's a pretty interesting dynamic to me, kind of how we have this general influence over the direction we go, and also the personal responsibility we hold over the actions we take and sort of the trajectory that that puts us on. So I've been trying to think more recently about what exactly it is that allows us to expand most effectively to be able to sort of broaden our understanding while also sticking to these sort of more transcendent truths that sort of govern the reality that we live in. And so there's this concept that's known as cognitive dissonance, and basically what this is it's whenever we have an external input that conflicts with the worldview that we hold internally, we get this sort of very uncomfortable feeling as we basically come into conflict with something that violates how we see the world. And how we deal with this is sort of a very pivotal influence in how we build our worldview, how we adjust it, how we sort of alter it, and the direction we go, right? Because whenever we are testing our own worldview with sort of this unchanging reality that governs existence and life as we know it, if we come into conflict with something that violates how we see things, we can either further go down the rabbit hole we hold as true and sort of reaffirm our biases and not change, thinking that we're right and whatever external variable that comes to us is wrong, or we can assess the variable and see sort of what that has as far as implications for our own worldview and how that aligns with what we hold to be true. And we can sort of go from there to start building and incorporating other variables. Now, a lot of this really depends on kind of how you hold your worldview and what you base it off of. So it's really two main pathways for this. There's sort of an eternally guided truth that we seek to understand and more accurately align ourselves with. And then there's sort of this culturally driven, momentary, temporary trend that we favor where we build our worldview around what's culturally accepted, what's common, what's trendy, things like that. And based on how you temper new input, almost fully shapes how you sort of build your worldview and your personality and how you sort of express ideas and things like that into daily life. So it's a really important distinction to make and kind of thing to become aware of as far as how you build your worldview and how you build your perception of reality, because ultimately there is a vast subjectivity to reality as far as each individual experience, but there are these governing truths and pillars that do not change at all over time, and we have to decide if we want to work to align with those or if we want to try and apply what we think is best and sort of elevate our own pride to try and transcend what this unchanging reality is. And so again, it's the whole concept of cognitive dissonance. It's actually a really interesting and quite influential tool to understand and be able to wield, because whenever you can combine what you understand and kind of how you shape your worldview, what your tempering stone is, if you will, with the understanding and awareness of what happens whenever we come into conflict with an idea that we do not hold within our own worldview, you can kind of leverage these two principles to assess new input against sort of this unchanging standard that we try to build our worldviews around, and then assess whether it's a benefit or negative, right? Because there's no shortage of where these other worldviews, other inputs come from, but there is sort of this unchanging standard we have to work to abide by if we want to have the most effective progression over time. So if we're able to kind of leverage these two elements, we can both adjust and adapt and have a much more effective filtration system for new inputs while guiding sort of the general trajectory that we hold and that we're on by something that transcends just own individual personal moments. So just something to consider and think about. I guess it's sort of a more theoretical concept and initially with how it sounds, but it's very, very practical and is worth considering and giving some time to thinking about. So hopefully that gives you something to consider over the weekend, and I'll see you next time.